Howdy, all you delicious people. I am here today to review Power Rangers episodes. Normally I would state these are Tommy Oliver episodes, but we really don't have Tommy Oliver in these episodes, in all honesty. And so we have the Black Dino Thunder Ranger, but that's about it. And even that, we don't really have Tommy Oliver's voice really being used in the episode that the Black Dino Thunder Ranger is in. So I just wanted to have fun and just kind of pick certain episodes that I have not either gone and seen or stuff that I wanted to either rewatch or whatever. Because maybe I didn't go on and remember these all that well. So I was like, oh, cool, this looks interesting. So we, of course, are going into these episodes Power Rangers SPD, episode 31, and the other episode that I am just calling Wormhole. Because, of course, for YouTube, the episode Wormhole is to state that it's episode 32, but then in IMDb, Wormhole is to be episode 38. So I'm a little bit confused on where Wormhole really is, but there is to have one within that episode, so it is what it is. So we also are to come to find the Power Rangers Dino Supercharge episode 17, that of course is to be zombie themed, but it also is to go on and have a robot caveman, which I think is like, yeah, like for any time that you were to go on and Power Rangers just have like a really cool theme, you just muck it up with something goofy. You really could have gone on and done something really interesting here, but you just mucked it up with something goofy. Like, you just non-clever people that have to have some goofy element into your episodes. But I get it. Like, heaven forbid you have an episode that's really scary. Like some other episodes that people would go on to point out that certain episodes were really scary for them to watch, it seemed. So we go on into these episodes, and let's just kind of let's start to cover it. So we come to find the fate of the world within the Dino Supercharge episode is to rely on both Coda, who is a caveman, and a caveman robot that barely seems to know what it can do. So we have that going for us. So, because we end up having Conductro and we have Screech that are to, via some kind of music or another, go on to start to make people zombies, that their sole purpose is to go on and have people who have headphones on or are not paying attention because they have their hands in their ears. They want to go on and infect that other person to turn them into a zombie, and that's their whole purpose. Not to eat human flesh, because this, of course, would not be adulting this up. That'd be too adulting this up, so they can't go on and do that. So we go on to have Coda, who tries to defeat the Conductro and the Screech, and so they come back with an alternate way to play their same song, and that again infects more people, and so the Power Rangers have to go on and figure out a way to stop this music to be played, and then they wind up having to face against Lord Arcanon. So I was like, alright, like, this episode seems to be almost going into like a big, massive, like almost like a finale of sorts. So I thought that was cool. Plus, this is to be like also a like Halloween kind of episode. So like that's cool. So then we go on and we have the Power Rangers SPD episodes. So we, of course, go on to have the history episode. And so we find out what is kind of going on with Connor, Ethan, and Kira while they have come to their Riverside high school reunion. And so we seemingly are to mention that they were crime fighting characters in the past that is kind of behind them. So they're kind of looking on what is the next project to do. And the next project is for them to do is to go on and be sucked into the future where they are going to be forced by Broodwing to fight with him. And so when they refuse and they rebel and they run away with Dino Gems to go and meet up with the SPD Rangers. And the SPD Rangers go on and state, like, well, hey, like, this is how, like, Power Rangers SPD is set up. It's kind of a very almost military-like approach to becoming Power Rangers. And so they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then we end up having the Power Rangers have to sit on the sidelines while the SPD are doing all the heavy lifting until finally the Dino Thunder Rangers go on and convince Kruger to get some of that action. And also Cat. So we have the Dino Thunder Rangers that team up with SPD, and they go on to take out some cryobots, as well as also taking out some Omega Head cryobots. And so we also end up having Emperor Grum that ends up getting in the mix, while also we have the Omega Ranger having to fight up against this villain, this threat. So we then go on and have them beat everybody and so on and so forth. So we go into the wormhole episode. So the wormhole episode is to now have Emperor Grum, who is really like getting like tortured by Omni the Magnificent, and so Emperor Grum is deciding to go back into the past and just dominate over prior Rangers. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but do you not know that certain Power Rangers may even be stronger than others? That the Zords might be stronger? That really, when looking at it, like certain Power Rangers could be more veteran, skilled Rangers than others? So on, so forth. Going on and on and on. So Emperor Grum goes back in time, and he ends up having a couple of monsters at his disposal, ends up grabbing onto Voltrex, and they start to try to make a run at the Power Rangers Dino Thunder, as well as the Power Rangers SPD, who are going back in time to try to fight off this threat, but they only realize they have 3 hours to be within this wormhole. So, with that said, I think it's about that time to just go on and go into just going into much more spoilers about these episodes. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about these episodes, whether you liked the SPD Dino Thunder crossover, where you thought the zombie theme was interesting. But I think it's about that time to just go on into that double five. It's about that time yet again to, of course, go into spoiler time. It's about that time you can spoil these episodes. Man, after watching these episodes, there were so many like blaster or pew 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 moments that I was like, man, like I have never gone on and seen so many like pew 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 blasting moments in my life, but this huge massive battle goes on and delivers all that. How many times can we just go on and have people flip and spin and curl and whirl and whatever, and they have to pew 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 their way through every bit? So with that said, I think it's about that time to just go into covering these episodes. So I want to state that I'm going to go on and do the Dino Supercharge episode first because it's easier, and also like I'm just kind of compressing down from, of course, watching the massive battles and crossover and SPD thing. I'm really just kind of being worn down from all of that. So with that said, I think I would go on and go into spoilers. Let's go into the Power Rangers Dino Supercharge episode 17 episode. So we have in the beginning of this episode, we have Sledge's ship, and we all of a sudden have Snide, who is talking to Poisandra, and Poisandra is to ask Snide for a secret. Because, of course, Poisandra had also gone to Heckle, and Heckle had offered a secret for his freedom, and Poisandra had granted him that. So, Snide had gave Poisandra this secret, and Poisandra had walked away, seemingly being very happy, but who knows? When really looking at it, every one of these monsters had the exact same expression on their face, or nothing, so it's hard to tell. So, we have Snide find out from Wrench that Heckle is now gone. So, we have Snide that runs to where Heckle was being held, and we just see two spike balls that, of course, had been watching over Heckle's cell, and so Snide just goes on and just takes care of them because it's like, well, like, you know what, like, this will be fine because Lord Arcane is coming in and he's going to defeat the Power Rangers with music. And Wrench is like, music? And Snide's like, yeah, it's gonna come in and beat them and take all their energems. So we then cue the Amber Beach Dinosaur Museum. Man, with all these dinosaur seasons, we always have to have a museum somewhere, right? You would have thought that would have been like the boring thing to showcase on a Power Rangers episode. Now it's like, oh no, like we're gonna make a museum the most boring thing to show on a TV. We're gonna make it our home base. And make it exciting, make it a learning experience. So, we have Kendall that is trying to sell this robot caveman exhibit called Warg to everybody, and nobody is biting. Nobody's like, I'm not going to come to some museum to just see some robot caveman. You kidding me? No. So, we have Kendall that's like, man, like this Warg thing is a flop. We should just get rid of it because no one cares. And Coda's like, well, hey, I care. Like, I like this thing. Like, this thing just reminds me of myself. So, we have Kendall that's like, well, he's going to remind you of being put in a box somewhere. So, we have at one point that this older man and this kid are getting this photo with Warg. It's like, well, hey, see, yeah, like maybe it's just a slow burn, you know, like, people come to it. So Riley goes on and is to take a picture of this man and this girl, and all of a sudden Warg ends up taking this guy's toupee, and so the guy, after his girl is screaming, realizes that he has no hair. So he grabs the toupee from the robot. So we end up also accidentally having them state the word attack. So we have Warg that takes this spear and is to chuck it and is to murder this hat from this woman. So the hat is now murdered, and I wish that there would have been sparks coming out of that hat, but you can't do it. So we go on to have Kendall that's like, kill it. This thing is dead. It's going to cost me more money than it's going to bring me in money. Like, there's going to be people that are like, hey, I'm suing you. So we have Riley, Tyler, and Shelby that go on outside to notice even the sign that is to tell everybody, hey, come in, Warg's here. Isn't that great? The sign even breaks. And so they're like, man, like even the sign for this thing is defective. So they start to fix the sign, and we all of a sudden have Conductro and Screech making their way to the front of this museum. And Riley's like, oh, no, I don't like horn music. I'm going to just cover my ears. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So we all of a sudden have Conductro and Screech playing this song, and all of a sudden everybody starts turning into a zombie, even Tyler and Shelby. So all of a sudden, while I want to say Kylie so much, so Riley, because Kylie Griffin and Extreme Ghostbusters, so on and so forth. Anyways, so Riley is like, well, hey, what's going on? What's wrong with you guys? And so Tyler and Shelby pull the hands from Riley's ears, and so he becomes a zombie also, and then he turns around like, argh! Like, we don't have them yell brains, because of course that's not where they're going to eat. So we have Coda. Coda had wanted to figure out a way to make Warg work. So we have Sir Ivan that is being the server at this restaurant. So we go on to have Ivan think that Coda is flipping all these burgers, and it seems like he's doing even a better job at it than actually the real Coda. So Warg is flipping burgers, and so when finally Coda comes into the back, Ivan's like, oh my god, you just gave me a heart attack. I thought this was you, but no, you're here. And so Coda states to Ivan, it's like, well, hey, don't say the word attack. And then all of a sudden, we have Warg that takes these tomatoes and starts chucking them numerous times over and over and over again. To have so many people getting pelted in the face by these tomatoes, even Kendra who gets smacked in the face. So we have Kendall that is telling Coda, like, get rid of this thing. Why are you trying to, like, train a new robot old tricks? Like, don't. Like, put this away. This is going to be a hazard more than a help. So Coda is to be like putting this thing in that box, and he's like, why, I just, yeah. So we go on to start to have all the people in the restaurant all start to become zombies. So we even have Ivan that becomes a zombie. And we have Coda who is to have these headphones that are connected to Warg. He still has them on. So we have Coda that bumps into the Black Ranger, who is Chase. And Chase is having his headphones on and he's listening to music. Like, hey, Coda, what's going on? And then all of a sudden they bump off Chase's headphones, and now Chase is a zombie. So we all have this to be resting on Coda. So Coda still has these headphones on, and so Koda is realizing he's going to get attacked by these zombies. So he realizes that when he's almost to take the headphones off, like, hey, music bad. So we have Koda running off to figure out where the music is coming from. So Koda goes on to figure out that it's like, okay, obviously it's coming from this trumpet. So Koda is to take this trumpet from Screech, and we also have Koda that tries to have some of the Power Rangers go on and also try to, like, we have Chase who Koda puts his headphones back on, or we have certain Rangers who are going and kind of like, hey, put your hands over your ears. So, but after Koda gets rid of that trumpet and is starting to play Keep Away, and we of course have Conductro and Screech who release out the Vivex. We then go on to play this whole Keep Away game. The Power Rangers are to go on and morph and take out the Vivex, and then Screech is to get back his trumpet. But so Conductro and Screech leave, so that way they can go on and talk to Lord Arcanon. So Lord Arcanon is to realize that these guys have failed, but he's like, well, like, you know what you guys try to do, like, with this whole trumpet thing, it's not quite good enough. You have to go on and find some other source for you to be able to still get this music out, but in a broader way, so it infects more people. So we go on to, of course, have the Power Rangers with Kendall, and they're trying to figure out a way to definitely nullify this music, because they realize that these monsters are going to come back. Honestly, kind of a little cheap on the Conductor and the Screech monsters, but at least it kind of felt like it was in the realm of it making sense with those things, where a lot of times a lot of the monsters would not make sense with whatever thing that they had. So at least this was kind of technically close than normal times. So they go on and they figure it out. We of course have Xenowing that realizes that Koda's headphones were to have been like set a certain frequency that was to nullify this power. So they start to realize that, like, well, hey, if we all go on and have the same headphones as Koda, then we of course can go on and, like, talk to one another and be able to kind of morph and whatever, and still have these headphones, like, on. Because we end up having Tyler justify that they can still have the headphones on under their helmets. They have to justify that. So that's why they can kind of work around the whole, like, issue and whatever, this goofy episode. So, which I thought was actually okay. Like, I thought all these episodes were, like, okay, if not great. I thought they were good. So thumbs up on all of them. I didn't state that, but anyways, it's kind of implied. I liked the concepts, and like the Supercharge episode was okay. There's interesting things in there, even though there's some goofy. SPD, those were, I think, both great episodes, because I liked both of the power teams together. It was great. So anyways, so we then go on to have Koda, who's thinking about Warg, and he's just like, you know what, like, I think we can use you. Like, I think we're going to use you for something. So the Rangers all go outside, and they realize that this signal has gone on to reach a wider number of people. So there's a lot more people that have become zombies. So we have the Rangers that are starting to think that they may need to go on and may start to need to take down people of this town and might have to just start fighting them. And Koda's like, no, 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 no. Like, I have another plan. So Warg ends up coming out and is to start running around. And so the zombies start following Warg, wanting to try and infect him, but he can't get infected because he's a robot. So we have the Rangers that are like, oh my god, that was a great idea. So the Rangers go on to find where the signal is really coming from, and so they morph, and so they end up fighting more Vivex, and we have the red and pink that end up separating away from the rest of the other Power Rangers. We don't have the gold and we don't have the Silver Ranger with this group. It's really just all the rest of the Rangers, with the exclusion of like the 6th and the 7th Ranger, technically. So we have the pink and we have the red separate from the rest of the group, and they end up fighting where the Conductro and Screech are. So we have the Power Rangers that say, like, okay, hey, yeah, like, come to where we are, like, we found it, we found where they are. So Conductor and Screech are having this record player that is, like, even putting out a louder sound of this music, obviously. So we have the Power Rangers combine all of their specialty weapons together to create this Dino Spike charger, and so it's kind of like this long kind of like spear with a combination of all their weapons together. So they throw this Dino Spike charger to then have it be nullified by the sound of this record, because the Conductro can control any number of things, and that seems to be one of them. So the weapons all come back into the hands of all the Rangers, and they realize, like, well, I guess that, like, didn't work out. So we all of a sudden have Xeno Wing, the silver supercharged Ranger, that goes on to be like, well, hey guys, like, let's go on and let's get rid of this menacing music. Come on, let's do it together. So the Power Rangers all go on, with the exclusion of Gold, to then grab onto this record player as they're fighting off the Conductro and Screech and all the Vivex. And so Xenowing grabs the record player and throws it onto the ground, and the Red Ranger grabs the record and breaks it in half. It's like, aha, like, now they're never going to go on and play this song again. So we then have Lord Arcadon, or Arcanon, that is to now be in front of the Rangers. And we have, of course, the Conductro and Screech were at his side. So Lord Arcanon has this book. He opens it up and is to get the Dark Energem. And they're like, oh no, the Dark Energem. What is he gonna do? So we have Lord Arcanon that takes the Dark Energem and becomes the Dark Lord Arcanon. I don't know the actual title. I don't know the morphing thing of what he then becomes, but that's what I guess I'll just call him temporarily. So we then finally have the Gold Ranger arrive, Sir Ivan, and he, of course, is to go on and have the gold Patera Saber, and does the attack, the Terra Super Bolt. We also have the T-Rex supercharge that the Red Ranger goes on and does. And we have all the Rangers that come together to do this thing just called the Final Strike, with all of them combining all their weapons together against the Dark Lord Arcanon. And we have the Dark Lord Arcanon that's just like, psh, like that, like did nothing. That was like a sneeze. So we have Lord Arcanon that calls for the Mega Beam so he can grow bigger. So Dark Lord Arcanon becomes bigger. So the Power Rangers end up calling for the Dino Charge Ultra Zord. As any goofy name of which that all these Zords have to be. The Dino Charge Ultra Zord. So we, of course, have all the Zords, like, they're throwing everything at Dark Arcanon. And so we have the Dino Supercharged Saber. We then do the Plasma Blast. Then we finally have it to where after all of these blasts and all these things, we finally have Lord Arcanon that is to lose the Dark Energem, and he falls. So we then have Dark Arcanon that is to meet up with Sledge. Sledge comes back. I actually really liked Sledge because in the Power Rangers Dino Charge episodes, I'm like, man, like the villains are like really sweet. Then like the Power Rangers just kind of suck. They're kind of meh. And so really I was kind of happy that Sledge was going to come back. Like if I can go on and watch the rest of this season or whatever and just be like, yeah, Sledge. Yeah, give me them good villain stories. I would be satisfied. So we have Sledge, and so Sledge is going on to talk about Lord Arcanon and his estate, that it seems Lord Arcanon has a bounty. And so Lord Arcanon's like, well, hey, I'll just pay you off with some space bullion. And Sledge is just like, no, I'd rather have the Dark Energem that I could just take from you after I take your bounty. So we all of a sudden have Lord Arcanon that's like, well, hey, like, it seems that you're a little bit outnumbered, Sledge, because, of course, we have Lord Arcanon with Singe, Conductro, and Screech. And so we, of course, have Sledge that's just like, well, like, I went on and I got the band back together. So Sledge all of a sudden has Poisandra, Wrench, Snide, Fury, and Curio. So we go on and have, of course, Lord Arcanon is upset that Snide had turned on him, and Snide is like, well, hey, I'm only working for me, so, like, nah, like, I could care less about you. So Sledge and all his people go on to do their attacks upon Lord Arcanon and wipe them all out, and Heckle is watching on as this is all happening, and he walks off. So we're now back at the Amber Beach Dinosaur Museum. And so we have Kendrell, and she is hearing about Warg going on and being able to do something after all that is going to put profit into this museum. And we find out that that is to be a caveman fitness class. We have all the people that are in this fitness class, they're all wearing caveman clothing, and I'm just like, why? This is so goofy, but again, for every Power Rangers episode, you have to have something goofy to even out all the darkness. So that ends up ending that episode, but Warg, I'm sure, is to make a bajillion $1 million that he'll never spend on doing all this fitness. So, with that said, going on into the SPD episodes, supposedly Power Rangers SPD episode 31. So, we go on to have Broodwing that ends up talking to Professor Cerebros. So, it seems that Broodwing had come from a planet named Onyx with 3 Dino gems. So we end up having like Broodwing with a plan of like, well, hey, like I'm gonna go on and take these Dino gems and find people that are gonna fit them. So we now go back to 2005, where we all of a sudden are at Reefside High's 1-year reunion. Huh? So, come to find out after Connor and Ethan had kind of left this school, they had also gone on to leave being Power Rangers. And so when Connor and Ethan meet, Ethan's like, well, hey, yeah, like, my old buddy, like, you know, my old crime-fighting, like, duo. So, we have Connor and we have Ethan. It's like, well, hey, like, let's catch up. Like, what have you been doing? So, Connor, it seems, is trying to find some charity to fund his soccer camps, and Evan is going on and doing some tech stuff. So they're like, well, hey, like, I wonder like what Kira is up to, and so Kira is stating it's like, well, yeah, like, I'm doing music. It's like, oh, like when are we gonna hear your music on the radio? And Kira's like, well, like you're hearing the music on the radio all the time because I'm doing commercial jingles. And so like, oh, okay, all right. So they start walking into the reunion thing, and all of a sudden they then are to instead appear into the future. So we all of a sudden have, of course, the Dino Thunder Rangers appear to Broodwing and Professor Cerebros, and Broodwing is offering them an offer of like, well, hey, like, we have these Dino gems right here, and you're gonna come and work for me. And so we go on and have the Dino Thunder Rangers that just take the Dino gems and then run off. So we then have the Delta base, and so we have the Power Rangers SPD Rangers that are to find out that there seems to be another Power Rangers signal out there from another team. And so when the SPD Rangers come in there, like, Bridge is just like, well, it's obviously not me because I'm here, so who else could it be? So they end up thinking that it's the A Squad. The A Squad came back because they never really resolved that story. So they think that the A Squad is back. They're happy. Like, either way, there's another Power Rangers team out there, so the SPD Rangers could care less. So we have Krug and we have Catter just like, I don't know about this. Not quite sure. We'll figure this out. So we go on to have Connor, Ethan, and of course Kira that go on to face off against Crybots. as they are trying to escape. So each one of the Dino Thunder characters end up using their special abilities. We, of course, have Kira that uses her Sonic Scream. We, of course, have Connor that does this flip and then he super speeds to try and like fall the right way to like fall onto the ground and start fighting more of these Crybots, which I thought was like the weirdest thing that he did. And we end up having Ethan, who is to harden his skin to like really hit all these Crybots, and he hits them so hard that he realizes that like some of them are coming apart. And so Ethan's like, "Oh my god, look at this future tech! This is amazing!" So we all of a sudden have Broodwing coming in, and so that's, of course, when we get the SPD Rangers coming in, and they're starting to fight off the Crybots along with Dino Thunder. So Broodwing ends up realizing that he's not going to convince the Dino Thunder Rangers to join him, so he just flies off. So we have the SPD Rangers that are just saying like, well, hey, like, you guys like don't know what kind of a threat Broodwing really is, and the guys are just like, dude, we're freaking Power Rangers. Like, come on, look at our Dino Gems. Like, we're gonna easily take down whatever threat is to be presented to us. Like, dude, we've taken down I don't know how many monsters in our time already. So we then, of course, have the SPD Rangers and the Dino Thunder Rangers go back to the Delta base, where now the Dino Thunder Rangers are going to have to explain what the setup is for this future, this high-tech future. So we go on to have like aliens and humans like living together in peaceful bliss, and we of course sort of go on and realize that a dog can talk, a cat can talk. Really? So it's pretty much what we find out. So we have them go on to explain. It's like, well, yeah, this is kind of like in a very like military-like style way of how we're like all these people have to be like cadets and kind of work their way up to eventually become X number Green Ranger. So with that said, we go on to, of course, have SPD realize that there is a threat out there, and so we have SPD who are like, okay, we're gonna go on and we're gonna take care of it, and the Dino Thunder Rangers are like, well, hey, like we want to go and we want to go and handle it also, because we're like we have, hey, and Kruger is like, no, you're not going to go out there and you're not going to help them because you are Rangers from the past. If anything is to happen to you here, like that could have a catastrophic effect on our past. And so when it seems that the Rangers are to, of course, end up getting even outnumbered by any number of things, we go on to, of course, have Power Rangers that are just like, well, like we just have to figure out how to handle this. So we have Emperor Grum that is talking to Morgana, and so Emperor Grum goes on to unleash out the Dragul. So we have the Power Rangers SPD that go out to face against the Crybots in this SWAT command truck, which I'm like, oh my god, like this thing looks pretty sweet wheels. Then we find out that the SPD Rangers go into SWAT mode and they're Delta Enforcers. I was like, I don't remember that ever happening in SPD. Maybe that just might have happened in the later seasons and I had completely forgotten about it. Or I'm not quite sure how deep I went into SPD, but still, SPD was a great freaking show. I really liked it. But so we have the even in SWAT mode, like the Power Rangers are going on and doing a pretty decent showing with Crybots, but we then have Emperor Grum and Morgana that is to come into the mix, and so the Power Rangers are of course getting overwhelmed. So we have the Omega Ranger Sam needing to go off to become the Omega Max Megazord in his other Zord that he already has. So the Omega Max cycle that ends up having the SPD Zord kind of riding on it at some points. So the Omega Max cycle becomes the Omega Max Megazord. See that 5 times fast. So we have the Rangers, the Dino Thunder Rangers, that have Kruger is running off. He needs to go and help the SPD Rangers because they're getting overwhelmed. So we have the Dino Thunder Rangers that are talking to Cat, and they're like, well, hey, we gotta go. We gotta help them out. Like, come on. Like, let's go. So Cat is like, well, hey, wait a minute. Like, you guys just have the Dino Gems. Like, how about I just go on and I give you the Morphers through the archive and I re-energize them for you. And so that lets the Dino Thunder Rangers go out to fight with SPD. So, but we do have Kruger coming in to help out the Rangers in the Delta ATV, whatever that friggin' means. And so, like, Kruger's coming in blasting with his vehicle, and everything that he has is just blasting, just pew. Anyways, so, but yeah, so but we had Dragul that becomes this big monster, and so Sam had to go on and fight it off in his Megazord, and he's not doing so well. So we have Emperor Grum, Morgana, and so we have at one point that Emperor Grum has this motorcycle. And so if we have like ATVs coming in and all this weird goofy stuff, we have these like Omega Head Crybots that are coming in and trying to like even out the fight. So there's blasts just going everywhere. Just pew pew pew, blast 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 every frickin' where. So we then go on to have the Rangers who go into their specific modes. So we have the Dino Rangers that go on to go on and do their God, what is it? The whatever their mode of which that they go on to. Let me pause here for a second. I think the Dino Thunder Rangers go into the Super Dino mode. The Dino mode where you have all like the the wings kind of coming out. Like, I think they end up concocting that. We also have the SPD that goes into SWAT mode, and they go on to try and just kind of comb through, take down. So we also have the SWAT commander truck that is just kind of firing away what it can also. Everything is just firing on all cylinders. So it really just gets to the point where they realize that they've kind of really thinned out the villain side of things. So we just have Emperor Grum, who's on his motorcycle, and we have Morgana that is kind of really just left here. So we go on to have the SPD Rangers that realize that they need to help out they need to help out Sam. So they end up going into the Delta Max Megaforce, or the Delta Max Megazord to help fight off the Dragul. So we go on to have Kruger and the Dino Thunder Rangers. They go on to combine the weapons together to make the Z-Rex blaster, and Emperor Grum is to go on like, okay, like I'm like just gonna like get out of here. Like, I know what's gonna happen. I know I'm gonna get blasted, and yeah, he does. And so he ends up just kind of leaving off, realize that he is going to, of course, be defeated. So we also end up having the Megazord go on and defeat the Dragul. So we then, of course, go on to now have the Power Rangers going back to the Delta base. And so we, of course, go on to have the SPD Rangers explain to the Dino Thunder Rangers, it's like, yeah, like, you become really successful in the future. Like, everybody knows your guys' soccer camps, and Ethan, your technology is to be, like, well used in the future. And Kira, like, you go on to make all kinds of music. You make all these great hits. Your career is going to be amazing. And also, guess what? We're going to go on and now wipe your memory of all of this and then just send you packing back to Reese Side High to go and do your reunion. So we then go on to have the Dino Thunder Rangers back at the reunion. And like, well, I hope Mr. O is here. Like, yeah, I really want to reconnect with that guy. Just be like, well, hey, man, like, why weren't you in this episode? And also, like, why weren't you in the other crossover? Because I'm sure he was probably getting a ton of money doing other appearances. Or I'm sure, like, Jason David Frank is always busy. Or was always busy, sadly enough. So yeah, so like there was a lot of time where supposedly it's like $2,000 to go on and be a part of an episode for these like other like Rangers that are obviously going to come back to these shows to get massive ratings for these specific episodes to boost up the ratings and so on and so forth. So, and plus also if there was like subscriptions or whatever, like, hey guys, like we got this Ranger to come back, like isn't that great? So we have Broodwing that realized that yeah, he does have another defeat on the books, but he has another Dragul that is just kind of waiting in the wings to get cooked, so he can go on and have that face off against the SPD Rangers. So we end up going on to the other episode, which of course is called Wormhole. So we have Emperor Grum that is to want to go on into this wormhole after getting treated poorly by Omni the Magnificent, which is just this thing like above Emperor Grum that goes on to electrify him quite a bit. So Emperor Grum goes on to... Let me pause here for a second. Alright, so Emperor Grum decides to go back in time to go through a wormhole to 2004. So we have the Delta base that goes on to realize that there seems to be no more Emperor Grum, and so we have Jack, Sky, Bridge, Elizabeth, Sydney all coming in to find out this news that Emperor Grum is gone. So Jack is like, oh my god, let's celebrate. We beat Emperor Grum. Like, he's done. And so, like, no. Like, the real question is, it's like, well, he's retreating to the rim. He's retreating to this wormhole. And so what time is he going back to? So, come to find out, that's Reef Side High 2004. So, we of course have Reef Side High 2004, and so we have, of course, the Dino Thunder Rangers that are going on at this time, and we have Kira that's kind of playing this guitar. Ethan is playing this game, and he's possibly thinking like, well, hey, like, what if this game is some, like, thing that is telling us that this is going to happen? And so Ethan is kind of playing around with that, while we, of course, have Trent that is sketching both Ethan and Kira at this bench. So Connor comes in, and then they end up seeing the ship fly by, and they're like, okay, what is that? So we have Emperor Grum that goes on to talk to Morgana, who is a young child. Because at some points Morgana is to have like a variety of different kind of looks to her for some reason. So we have Emperor Grum who is to ask Morgana, it's like, well, hey, like, what are you doing? And Morgana is to be sketching certain monsters, and so Emperor Grum is like, okay, like, keep doing that, don't do anything else, because Morgana was wanting to leave, and Emperor Grum's like, no, like, go on and create more monsters. So she ends up going on to create a vine monster, and so Emperor Grum is like, okay, great. So we're now back at New Tech City 2025 at the Delta base. So we, of course, have Kruger, who is telling the Rangers, it's like, well, hey, like, some of you are going to have to go back to follow where Emperor Grum had went. And so, like, hey, I'm not going to pick all of you, because some of you are going to have to stick around and, like, fight off what is to be, like, current time threats. So we have Bridge that is to hear Crew say, it's like, well, yeah, you're probably going to have to go on and say goodbye to everybody. And Bridge is like, well, do you mean, like, goodbye for now, or goodbye, like, I'm never going to see you again? And Crew looks at him. So Bridge is like, oh, okay. So we go back to Reef Side High 2004. So we have Kira, we have Ethan, and we have Connor. And so they're trying to track down where this possible ship was, and also they're like, well, hey, I think we need to go on and we need to find Dr. O. We need to find Tommy Oliver. So instead of them going on and finding anything but Zeltrax, Zeltrax is just like, hey, well, I'm here. Like, how about you go on and find me? So we, of course, had the Dino Thunder Rangers that are going on to face off against Zeltrax and the Tyradrones, the Tyrannodrones, my bad. I always get them the name is just so hard to pronounce. So we have the red, the green, and the yellow SPD Rangers, Jack, Bridge, and Elizabeth. And I'm like, well, of course. Like, of course Jack and Elizabeth are going to go, because if either one of them goes, it's going to be one or the other. Because they always are just like they're like the best of friends and whatever. And like Bridge is just kind of like, they could kind of go without Bridge. But if anything, like Sky and Sydney, it's like, well, like let's just kind of like have them stick around because they can probably deal with any threat, as well as with Kruger. So we go on to have Emperor Grum, that is to grab Zeltrax, because Emperor Grum wants to team up with Zeltrax to fight against the Power Rangers. And so Grum is to also tell Zeltrax, it's like, well, hey, like I have a decent number of like monsters on my side, and I have a good decent amount of Crybots, so like, hey, like you're gonna have quite an arsenal to throw out these Power Rangers. So we go on to have back at 2025, the new tech city. If this is what the future looks like, we are now almost 3 years away from that. It's kind of funny to the second's recording. So we have Sky and Sydney who are talking to Kruger, and they're just like, well, hey, like, why are we going on and just waiting for something to happen here when we should be going back to the past to defend the past? And Kruger's just like, well, hey, like, because we need a defense here. And so Sky is just telling Kruger, it's like, well, you know what? Like, if we lose in the past, then it won't matter if we have anything left in the future. And Kruger's like, you know what? Like, you guys are right. So all the Rangers go off, the rest of the Rangers of the SPD go off to go back in the past. We also had Kat that was to go on and tell Kruger that there is only a 3-hour time period for the wormhole to completely close, and like no one is going to be able to come back. So we have one of the oh, did I say Omega Head? I meant Orange Head. Orange Head Crybots. So we had one of the Orange Head Crybots that is to go into town and declare that Emperor Grum is going to take over this world, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. And then we go on to, of course, have the Power Rangers go on and start taking out these Crybots. So we go on to finally have Power Rangers, Black Dino Thunder Ranger appear to the rest of the group, and we of course have him go on and fight off Zeltrax. So we now have the Dino Thunder Rangers and the SPD Rangers kind of complete here. And we have all the Dino Thunder Rangers who all morph. We have all the SPD Rangers that go on and they're like, okay, like what could be worse? And they start to see the Vine Monster, the spotty-eyed monster, and the green monster, and they see the Tyrannodrones and the Crybots, and they're like, okay, like this has gotten worse. So we even have the SPD Rangers that are asking, it's like, well, hey, what are those? And we have the Power Rangers Dino Thunder that are saying, like, those are Tyrannodrones. So the funny thing is we had, like, Jack, who goes on to tell the Dino Thunder Rangers when he meets up with them with Elizabeth and Bridge, they had gone on and met before, and the Dino Thunder Rangers are asking, like, well, hey, how is it that we don't remember this? And Bridge is like, well, you were neuralized, and like you of course can't remember because like you just can't. It's a way of like not knowing any future technologies. So we go on and then have the Power Rangers all meet up with all the other Rangers, and they start to morph. And so we go on to have this big, huge, massive battle. And so we go on and have all the Rangers that at some point end up like circling around together, and they're like, well, hey, nobody's gonna break this line. Nobody. Like, nobody's gonna come through us. So, like, we have everybody say it, even the stunt double Tommy Oliver says it. It's like, nobody's coming. Like, nobody's gonna get through. Nobody's. So, they have this, like, circle of defense, and everybody is just kind of getting their licks in. And so, we had at the other history episode where we had this like girl power moment where the yellow Dino Ranger was with the pink and the yellow SPD Ranger, and they were firing off. And immediately when they stated, it's like, well, hey, like, let's give them a girl power moment, I was like, okay, that seems just so cheesy. But weirdly enough, we had all the girls who grouped together again to do another attack. We have the Omega Ranger that goes on to team up with the White Dino Ranger, like, hey, yeah, like, all right, like, it seems like you're really skilled and this and that. Like, we have these kind of like moments where it's like, yeah, like, you're good too, yeah, that's great. So we have the red with the red, and all the colors are just kind of getting mixed together. So we have both the Red Rangers who try at the same time. We have the Battleizer cyber mode that's going on, and we have the Shield of Triumph and the Triassic Ranger that come in to fray here. So they go into Battleizer Sonic mode, and we of course have the red Dino Thunder Ranger who goes and releases his cannons. So we go on to have Emperor Grum and Morgana that God, why is this so hard to finish this up? Alright, so after the Red Rangers are go on through all their modes to start wiping out most of the monsters, we then go on to like start to realize, because we had Zeltrix that was kind of taken out by Tommy and Kruger, and I think like Tommy and Kruger teamed up at some point. So we go on to have like all the monsters end up getting taken out, And so we have Emperor Grum that is talking to Morgana, and so he states that he's gonna go down there himself and just beat everybody. And Morgana is going on to state to to Emerald or Emperor Grum, it's like, well, yeah, but like the wormhole is closing pretty soon, so we should probably leave now. And Grum is like, well, wait, like, but I still want to battle, and I still want to, like, maybe I want to just stick around. And Morgana's like, okay, so, like, really, when thinking about it, you're gonna have to go on, and you're gonna have to defeat every single person that you have already defeated in the like our present day. So like you're gonna go on and have to like fight all these people to beat them and take them down, so you're really just gonna waste a lot of time. So Emperor Grum's like, I get it, like let's go back to our present time. So we then have the Dino Thunder Rangers and the SPD Rangers. And so they're both going on to like just state it's like, well, hey, yeah, like it was really great working with you. Hey, maybe we can go on and do it again sometime, yada yada yada. Like all just small talk. So we go on and have Kruger that is to go on and flashy thing the Power Rangers Dino Thunder so they won't remember who they talked to. And so Kira and Connor and Ethan, once they get flashy thinged, or memory wiped, we all of a sudden just have Kira who looks at Kruger. It's like, hey, that dog talked, and then she walks away. They don't really ask any questions beyond that. They don't just state it's like, well, hey, like, who are all you people? Why are you all here? No, they just start walking off. Like, is Kruger another monster? Should we have to defeat it? Like it seemed like they did at some point before? No, they don't do any of that. So we go on to then have like the SPD Rangers is like, well, hey, like this was such a great battle and it was so much fun, yada yada yada. So, and plus we have our Rangers that are to kind of look at the setting of the past. So we go on to have Kruger who goes on and memory wipes the SPD Rangers also, and then the Rangers are like, well, hey, why are we here? And Kruger's like, well, we're all going to go back onto the ship to leave because we're going to go back home because we were on a mission. And so the SPD Rangers are like, okay, all right, so let's go into this transport and let's get out of here because the destination of the ship is already predetermined. So we have Kruger that goes on. It's like, well, the only person that I need to now like wipe my brain or wipe the brain of is myself. So Kruger wipes his own brain, and then we have Elizabeth that's stating to Kruger, it's like, well, hey, like you want to go on and get on the ship, right? And Kruger's like, well, I guess I should. So we go on and have them all leave, so that kind of finishes up this episode. So yeah, I'm going to try to get out of here because I realize how long this is probably going to take to put this all together, and I know that it probably took longer than an hour, but there was so much to talk about for these episodes, and I'm also hopefully going to get this episode out. So goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.